Hi all, let's have a look at the dramatically notable game 7.2 in the World Cup. So Sergey Karjakin playing white against Svidler. Could he recover against Svidler? He lost the first game in the classical encounter, so it's a 4-game match in round 7 rather than a 2-game match. So you just need 2.5 points to win it. So Svidler 1-0 up already. E4, he plays E5. He's a specialist in the WhiteElo. And we go into, in particular, mainline WhiteElo so far. Standard stuff. D6 here, H3. And then we have knight B8. And this retreat is known as the Breer variation. And for those interested in a bit of trivia from Wiki, the Breer, or historical detail, it was recommended by a player called Breer as early as 1911. Funny enough, there were no known game record in which he actually played this line. It did not become popular until the 1960s when it was adopted by Boris Spassky and others. In particular, Spassky apparently had back-to-back wins over Mikhail Tal at Tbilisi in 1965, and that really enhanced its reputation. Spassky had a career plus score with the Breer. So today it's the choice of many top players, as white has trouble proving an advantage against it. It's strange, isn't it? A knight retreat, but it unblocks the c-pawn, and it means, you know, that c-pawn could be useful to influence the center. It's pretty logical. d4, so knight bd7 strengthening e5 like that, but with the extra flexibility now of being able to move the c-pawn. Knight bd2, bishop e7, bishop c2, and we have rook e8 here. Quite often black wants to be able to play bishop f8 and maybe threaten to take on d4, encouraging white in effect to close the center. a4, bishop f8, and here actually bishop d3 was played, putting some scrutiny on the queen's side, and that's reinforced. And now the usual move in a live book is b3 here. Actually, there's 219 games with b3, e.g. like this. Games continue like this, just for those interested. But in this game, we see actually quite a rarer move, queen c2. There's only 49 games of queen c2. And this reaction seems quite logical. Usually, 23 games with g6, but this is quite a logical move. It seems rook c8 just to put an extra attack on the queen, basically, which would make c5 and cd more dangerous. We have a takes, not leaving the a-pawn behind. b4, trying to clamp down on c5, but black plays it anyway. Now, c5. Because of this placement of the rook and queen, it's kind of possible to drop b5 for cd. So we have here b takes c5. And now actually black has a choice of 2 pawns to take actually here. He actually plays e takes d4. You might think, hold on a sec, why not d takes? Well, this position here, after bishop c4 in this particular position, it's potentially, there's a dangerous threat of taking there. There's some potentially dangerous tactics taking there in this diagonal. So this might be a concern for black. So black actually takes on d4 here. And now we see c6, d takes c3, and some simplification in a strange way with these pawns munching. C takes b7, c takes d2, queen takes d2, rook b8. So what's happened? 5 pawns for white, 5 pawns for black. 1 extra pawn now for white. And black, before like taking on b7, actually plays queen b6 here. Pawn's not really going anywhere. We have rook b1. Now queen takes b7, so a pin here for the moment. Bishop d3, protecting the rook. Queen a8, and some more simplification. So white, after all that, has emerged with maybe a small advantage in the form of a bishop pair, but it's going to be difficult to do anything with that. You might think structurally d6 looks like a target as well, but black's pieces are not too bad here. Bishop b2. The queen comes in here, pinning. Kind of. Rook e2. h6. Queen c1, which actually introduces bishop takes f6. So the queen moves. So bishop takes f6 would have attacked the queen. So the queen moves. Bishop c4. Queen b7. And knight takes e4 now. It's threatened. That's protected, or indirectly. Queen d1. Indirect defense of e4 here. If knight takes, bishop d5 looks pretty good. That's the indirect defense. So here we see rook e8. And now white gives up the bishop pair. He plays what seems to be an energetic, forceful continuation here. Bishop takes f6 doesn't really afford black anything else apart from knight takes. This looks just terrible, and it is. Looking absolutely disgusting pawn structure. So knight takes, but it runs into e5. It seems to run into this, which at least will coordinate pressure on f7. So for the moment it seems white's trying to get something going on f7. This is now protected with rook e7. In this position, by the way, in this position after rook e7, there's nothing really much. There's no major forcing thing, apart from the possibility of taking on f7. White actually centralizes the queen first here, and maybe to improve the position first with king h2. We have knight d7, and now white plays knight takes f7. So this idea of getting two pieces for the rook is interesting, and white is in no hurry here to take on f7. He plays rook b2, queen c6, and perhaps white should really take on f7 in this position here or at some point, but play a safe move if he's not going to. But it's no big deal. Instead, at move 37, Sergey plays a move which is very interesting, rook b5, and yes, there is a resource for black here off the rook b5, which is embarrassing tactically for white, shall we say. Can you see what black plays in this position after rook b5? There are other rook moves which leave the pin and leave the tension in the position, but this move unfortunately runs into something, a tactical resource from black. If I give you 5 seconds, you might want to pause the video. Black play here and actually win material. Remember, white's relying on the bishop takes f7. So what would you play here with black? Okay, king h8, yes. Because this is now a loose piece. If bishop takes, then queen takes b5. It's a loose piece. Loose pieces do drop off. Tend to drop off. And to further compound the blunder, rook d5 was played here, which runs into, can you guess if I give you 5 seconds? Okay, knight b6. Yeah, what a disaster. That's just losing material. If we just rewind this, tactical incidents basically. Here, if when the piece was hanging, instead of rook d5, on bishop takes f7, queen takes, you might think, is there anything unfortunate for black here in terms of bishop e8? Actually, black has this annoying check, and then can play queen b8 check, yeah, to pick up the bishop. So that's pretty diabolical, disaster, as tactics go. Yeah, I think maybe Sergey's knackered from the previous rounds and just wanted to qualify, in fact. But there is a prize associated, I believe, with coming first here in this tournament. But maybe his main goal was just to qualify for the candidates tournament, which both of them have achieved. So, yeah, it's unfortunate. Casual move, rook b5. The time situation at the time, I think Peter Svidler apparently had about 3 minutes. So maybe rook b5 was trying to keep tension going and pressurize black instead of just routinely taking on f7. So Sergey had a few more minutes than his opponent. And yeah, it shows even humans can make gross, well, even super grandmasters as humans can make what seems to be gross blunders. But in context of the time pressure and the exhaustion factors, and maybe this, sense of complacency, if you've already achieved your goal of going to the candidates, that was your main goal, so you don't really care so much. And if you don't really care so much, you don't invest so much time and energy into your moves, and maybe you get a move like this appearing, which, yeah, but it was, I guess, part of it was trying to exploit the time situation. So rook b5, an astonishing blunder. And I have been accused in the past of overusing the word blunder, when we're talking about technical blunders, from an engine point of view, a change in evaluation shifts. What defines a blunder? But this does seem a blunder by many standards, in fact. Given it was a reasonable position, a reasonable idea for white to get 2 pieces for the rook. It is quite a major, I think, blunder for many people's standards. This would be called a blunder. It's immediately giving black a winning position materially after king h8. Okay, comments or questions on YouTube. So Peter Svidler just needs a draw in the next game to be 2.5 to get the winning match score out of the 4 games to win the World Cup. Okay, thanks very much.